And once again, we're looking at another situation where A&M has this incredible opportunity in front of them, this magical moment in Kyle Field in front of 110,000 fans, and the offense isn't good enough. Something has to change, and that's why you pay Mike Elko. Okay, let's talk about Miami and Texas A&M. I don't want to talk about this game. Man. Alrighty. Miami beats Texas A&M 10-3. This was one of the games of all time, to say the least. This game was ugly. It was 0-0 at halftime. You had one of the worst special teams performances between two programs that I'd seen in a very long time. Wind was crazy. I give them credit there, or I give them the excuse there that we're looking at winds that are going left to right, right to left, up, down, left, right, whatever kind of code you want to go with. That's how the wind was going. It was egregious, but this was a really brutal performance from both sides. These two teams looked like they had not played football in 3 weeks. They hadn't, and they looked it. I mean, this was going to be a game, as everyone talked about, which quarterback was going to make more mistakes. And it was Marcel Reed. You want to know why Carson Beck didn't make any mistakes? He was able to get the ball out of his hands, not in terms of throwing it, but handing it off. Miami has had an inconsistent rushing attack all season. And it was benefited from the fact that Mark Fletcher and this A&M defense was a nightmare matchup. For the A&M defense, better said. Mark Fletcher went for 17 carries, 172 yards. You're going to win a lot of football games that way, especially when we look at Texas A&M. Even though you had Le'Veon Moss return, sometimes it just doesn't matter. Sometimes, unfortunately, he had not played since week 6. He gets injured in this game. He is one of the most talented running backs in the country. Le'Veon Moss is an incredible back when he's on the football field. But that caveat, man, it's a caveat of when he is on the football field, and it is a brutal, brutal loss whenever you lost him. You also lost Albert Regis, a veteran defensive tackle. I don't want to go down. If you see the Kyle Field to the left of me and the A&M pennant behind me, you understand why I'm getting a little fixated on A&M. Let's talk about the winners. Let's talk about Miami. Miami's going to be moving on to face off against Ohio State. This was a Mark Fletcher masterclass. And this was a Ruben Bain masterclass. And sometimes when we look at these ugly battles between two very defensive forward teams, 10-3 is the final score. All you need is a special performance from 1 to 2 players, and that is the difference. Malachi Toney made enough plays. He got the touchdown following a fumble at the middle of the field, was able to bounce back. That is resilient. That's impressive. That's exactly what you're looking for out of your stars, because this offense runs right through him. But not only that, you got a performance that you didn't expect. Now, I know Miami fans were expecting to be able to run the football, but Mark Fletcher going 17 for 172, can't tell me that was expected. This A&M defense continues to allow teams that can't run the ball to magically be able to run efficiently on them time and time again, and that's the difference. But then we turn to the other side of the ball, we flip the page, and we look at Ruben Bain. Call a spade, man. You could see this one a mile away. When we talk about Ruben Bain, I mean, I understand there's people out there that think he could be a second-round pick. They're delusional. This is a NFL star waiting to happen. This is a guy that's going to be playing on Sundays. This is a guy that I think is going to be a star on any defense that selects him. He is a freak of nature. People want to talk about arm length. I don't care. He is a baller. And unfortunately, for Texas A&M, the offensive line had to chirp at him. You had to give him extra ammo. You had to give him bulletin board material. Now, I understand many people say, oh, well, now he's going to play even harder than he did before. Listen, man, if you wanted to give him free motivation, you did it, because Ruben Bain went 4 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, and a blocked field goal. Talk about bounce back. He had that quote from, and if you did not hear, Trey Zune said, we don't think he's going to be much of a factor, in the most paraphrased quote of all time. He had that as his screen background. Posted that on a press conference. I mean, Ruben Bain masterclass and a Mark Fletcher masterclass is the only way you can describe it. And like we stated before, you needed the ball out of Carson Beck's hands. And a performance like that on the offensive side of the ball was huge, and enough plays because you really felt like there was a breaking point in this second half where the A&M offensive line just continued to crumble. It seemed like every single play, Marcel Reed had to create something. He had to escape. He had to make something out of nothing. And unfortunately, as we pivot to Texas A&M, because we'll talk about Miami and Ohio State later this week, the question around Aggie land right now is Marcel Reed a good enough quarterback, or can he be good enough to win a national championship? Marcel Reed with 3 turnovers in this game. And I wrote down he just wasn't good enough. We can look at Colin Klein and the fact that he was 1 foot out the door. He's focusing on Kansas State. He's now the head coach there, if you did not know. And he's the offensive coordinator for Texas A&M. Ever since November, midpoint, we have seen back-to-back collapses in the month of November and beyond from Marcel Reed. Now, I give excuse to last year because the offense was set around Connor Wigman, who is obviously the Houston quarterback right now. And then you go into this offseason, you develop, you have better weapons around Mario Craver, Casey, all these pieces, and you do play better. You do. Like, I think a lot of people get lost in translation in their emotions on Marcel Reed's performance in 2025. But frankly, the things that he needs to get better at come with maturing as a quarterback. So to answer the question, do I think he can win A&M a national championship? I do. But that's not to say it's going to be easy. That's not to say I think it's likely. I mean, he is a quarterback that is learning how to really play quarterback live in SEC play, and that's a very difficult thing to do, and it's not going to get easier. We're looking at a quarterback that is going to be missing majority of his offensive line going into this offseason. Casey's more than likely going to the NFL draft. He's going to be missing his star running back officially. Le'Veon Moss will be going to the draft, and a lot of pieces on the defense. This was his best supporting cast. This was an incredible collection of talent that will be definitely taking a hit. Now, Texas A&M is built for the portal, and the funding and the resources is all there, and you have a new offensive coordinator. There's going to be a ton of changes going into 2026. So the question really is, can he develop? And we'll talk about it throughout this offseason. If you love A&M content, obviously I'm biased in that sense. I have a page, Gig'em Teagan. Feel free to check it out, where I will dive into the nitty gritty of all of that. But Marcel Reed wasn't good enough because the rushing attack wasn't there. The team that had to put the ball into their quarterback's hands was the team that was going to lose this matchup, and we saw that live and in fashion. A&M's defense wasn't good enough. Their offense wasn't good enough. And once again, we're looking at another situation where A&M has this incredible opportunity in front of them, this magical moment in Kyle Field in front of 110,000 fans, and the offense isn't good enough. Something has to change, and that's why you pay Mike Elko.